call the meeting to order at 6:07. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of June 27th, 2017.
So moved.
Is there any discussion? I'd like to amend the minutes to include the directive to Kurt Bostrom to turn in evaluations for the highway department that Steve made.
June 27th. Okay, yeah, evaluations. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes with the added language signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I would like to add under correspondence a follow-up to the Historic Society Bridge dedication. Anything else? Okay. Hearing nothing, then we'll move on to members of the public. Alan?
Hello, everybody. I'm here actually representing Ross since I don't own the property any longer. But 20 years ago, I entered into a 25-year agreement with the town that they could use the pond as fire, etc., and right-of-way and all of that. Charlie has approached us about changing that and making it more of an ongoing agreement. And it would be with the state as well. And we don't have any problem with that, except for the fact that the road, Taft Road above between Derry and Burby is coming down and creating a beach, we call it.
Cool.
Yeah, but the beach is growing every rainstorm that we have. And it will be a mud hole at some point and won't be very good for fire protection.
So it's erosion off the road above it.
Mm-hmm. I've gone and taken pictures. Irv would be a great person to go up and just look at it and see what he thinks about the way the road is, the way it is. There's no ditch there, like a swale to catch water and run. It just goes shoo down the hill. And it's
So
not.
it's a soft spot in the road?
Well, there's a couple of them.
Yeah.
And I'm not great at roads, and it's not gonna stop us from, going into whatever agreement Charlie and the state feels is best and to make it good for the town. But we want you guys to know about this so that if,
Well, where was the stabilization going to be taking place? It was further
Nowhere.
south.
Yeah, it's down closer to the bottom of the hill.
Closer to the bottom,
Yeah, that's where.
oh, something else you're talking
There's
about?
a big clay bank right there.
Yeah,
Just as
yeah.
you just as you start going up the hill on the right, they moved a telephone pole apparently to the other side or up from somebody's driveway. But that
Down
whole,
below Helen's?
I believe,
Yeah.
yeah, and that whole bank is apparently coming down. There's
Just
one.
about the top of that first pitch.
Well, there was an oak tree up there for years that you and I would talk about, why don't we take that dead oak down? And you said, because it's holding the whole damn bank up.
There you
And he was right.
So
but-
you're willing to discuss a longer term contract with the state and with the fire department, but the road needs some maintenance work.
Well, the road so that the pond doesn't fill up and it's useless to us and to the
To
town.
everybody. Yeah.
And, Charlie said, it will have some mechanism, can we put a box in it as part of the agreement so that it measures the silt in the soil? Once years ago, I don't remember when, probably 20 years ago, somebody came up and redid the pond for the town and for us, no cost to me. But what they did was they took out a berm I had at the end in error. I said, be careful, don't take that berm out. It really holds a lot of the silt back. And whoop, gone. So I don't know if that's part of it, but this is very definitely
Road erosion.
and every time you're using your gravel on the roads to fill up the pond that you want for fire protection.
From the road.
That's where it's all going.
From the road out, it's all downhill for it to the pond.
I know, I'm at the bottom of that hill, Herb. I know all about
We
it.
keep having gravel crush and it keeps disappearing. And that's
It's
the
all in
only-
Hagee's yard.
So I don't know what you guys want to do about it, but if I were us, I'd say, go look and see what's going on,
I don't know, the state state guy, I don't know what they found out, but the state guy came down and went over it with them.
The road?
No, the pond,
Oh,
wherever the dry hydrant's gonna be.
yeah, I know that.
But I think they've changed the idea from where it was gonna be originally to something different, but I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have any problem with that, Russ and I have
And I
discussed
say
it, he's
that's
like,
the-
I'll sign whatever they, it's
That's the only thing that I know of. Other than that,
but,
couldn't tell you.
But you really don't want Kurt up there making any kind of changes till you know what the final product is supposed to be.
You want the highway commissioner you want some engineering advice. and
Russ
consent.
mentioned it to Kurt, and it was like, it's not a problem. And,
Is he here?
and I have a picture that shows, if we wanted a beach there, then it's not a problem. But, yeah, and it's just gonna keep happening.
Sure.
And
So does anybody from the fire department have any idea at what stage the process is?
we were presented with a piece of paper that
I think, Brian Smith or somebody met with the state guy.
They're working on it. We have money set aside in a grant, which is free and clear, spend it any way you want, but for fire ponds, basically.
Yeah.
And I believe Brian, you may correct me, but I believe Brian was chasing another small grant with the state. That'll have some strings attached where there will be a match, but the match can be work in kind. Nonetheless, there is a desire to expand the fire pond. Yours is one that needs some rural maintenance. There's another one out in West Townsend, I believe, that they're looking at, maybe down by Girders or something like that still.
I talked to them a couple of weeks ago, just a minute.
But Brian and Charlie have done the,
They said something about Alley's Pond,
Yep.
and I said, I said, they're gonna do the same. They said, well, they said, no, they said the guy changed it or something.
So my
I don't
suggestion,
have a clue what it was.
my suggestion would be that we find out from the fire department exactly what stage this is
right,
at.
but to the extent that there is roadway work on a class 3 road or whatever, that needs to be done, I would have Irv or Steve or somebody go out with and assess it, come up with a plan for it. Just don't leave it up to Bob. I mean, it's Bob's road to fix.
who's Bob?
Bob LaCour.
Oh, okay.
He's the one who basically runs
okay.
the acres. But yeah, and have a meeting with maybe Ally or Ross and Kurt and figure out what and the fire
Yeah,
and figure out
I said
what's
to
going on long term.
Charlie,
and how to correct
I
it.
don't mind I never minded saying yes to anything, but someday I'm gonna be gone and he's gonna be gone, so we gotta have it all so everybody understands going forward.
Right.
It's not just a handshake between two old farts.
There are a lot of handshake agreements.
Yeah.
Trying to get buttoned
Well,
down.
we had it written down, but it was like, oh yeah, and we'll take care of it, and don't worry, and, and it's always worked. But, I said, Ross, I'm not gonna be around someday, or if I am, maybe I won't remember either.
Exactly. So if we could get in touch with Brian in particular, or Charlie, and find out where the fire department is with that, and when Kurt gets back from his
Travels.
whatever his trip was, we're going to need to make some kind of an arrangement to meet with him so that it can be looked at and move forward once we have the fire department there. It'd be nice if everybody could meet.
I don't know if it always went quite so far off right there. When you're coming down the hill, right by Dairy Lane there, it really just goes off. And I know you can't have like a swale there, but I think the pitch of the road changed a little over the years. And
Yeah, 'cause they're gonna say you can't run it too far or it'll eat the side of the road or not.
So that would be the.
Well, that Plum Road grant's coming up. I mean, they should be working on that any time now that it's dried out. So they're going to be up there with trucks and backhoes and whatever. So I mean, it might be opportunity.
So we'll start first with the fire department, find out what
It might be opportunity. Yeah.
and the 25-year lease is in the land records.
Yeah, we'll let the fire
That's
department
easy if
handle
you want to
it.
start a file. And then I can get you the one or Charlie can give you the one that he presented us with from the state guy. And the state guy looked at the 25-year lease and thought it was a very good idea to have them together because, he was saying his didn't have enough, I don't know, meat in it or whatever.
Help cover the state's requirements.
Yeah.
Where the money is and stuff.
So we need to change the dates, come up with a new contract, raise your rent, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
All the
okay,
good
Raise the
things,
payment.
important things. Absolutely. Okay, was there anything else?
that's it.
Well, we'll hopefully be able to get Kurt up there to look at it, and in the meantime,
Within a
the
week or
fire
so.
department and see what's going on.
Yeah, you're gonna get up there, right? Good.
That's right.
That's
That's right
the,
too.
that's the eyeballs I want on it.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, folks. Have a
Thank
good
you.
meeting.
Earl's the man in demand. He's the man in demand.
All right, then let's move back to the warrants.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 1, payroll, in the amount of $8,919.51.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in
Well, we
favor?
still have quite a few hours of driving around checking roads, over and over again. And if we go on our roads, there's plenty of washouts that still haven't been touched. There's driveways that it's kind of extreme to hit the bump to get into them. I mean, we continuously, each week, go look at these and we say, wait a minute, there's tree stuff, there's driving around checking for ditches. I mean, driving around checking for them is one thing, and driving around fixing them is another. No other discussion on that.
Anybody else?
Did you second that, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, all those in favor of paying payroll warrant number 1 in the amount of $8,919.51 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So you're abstaining.
Yep.
I'll vote in the affirmative and the motion carries.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 2, payroll taxes, in the amount of $3,591.19.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying payroll tax warrant number 2 in the amount of $3,591.19 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 3 out of the general fund in the amount of $6,907.60.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 3 in the amount of $6,907.60 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 4 out of the general fund in the amount of $9,310.57.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying general fund warrant number 4 in the amount of $9,310.57 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 6 out of the highway fund in the amount of $1,600.
Ooh, we
That's
skipped
number
one.
six.
We skipped one.
Skip
Five.
5.
Just backwards.
Back to what I was saying. Make a motion to pay check warrant number 5 out of the highway department in the amount of $277.79.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying highway warrant number 5 in the amount of $277.79 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Make a motion to pay check warrant number 6 out of the highway fund in the amount of $1,600.
Is there a
Ain't
second?
that changed?
Is there a second?
Second.
And is there any discussion?
I see the price has been reduced from the
For
original.
200.
I'll let Craig address that because quite frankly, I was not the one, I did not speak to Kurt. He did
I'll
not
be brief,
come
but
to any
I'll be
press.
brief because it was brief. Kurt called me yesterday, 1:45, somewhere around there, 1:30ish, to tell me that he had been playing phone tag with D&E Tree Service, that he had talked to John down there. He had expressed that the day was short, only 6 hours and change instead of 8, and that they really didn't take down a lot of trees that there was an expectation to take down. Anyway, John apologized. He apparently sent a crew up here, essentially unsupervised, and said, well, why don't you take $200 off the top and we'll just call it a day. They did discuss a little bit about, Kurt mentioned that there was going to be more work to do. John is interested, or D&E is interested in doing more work coming down the pike. So It's still a working relationship there. The indication that Clerk gave to me was that John offered to take 200 off the bill because of not being a full day and maybe not cleaning up and not having a crew that was supervised as well as it might have been, or as attentive as it might have been. And that's all I know.
Any further discussion?
So that would change it from 1,600 for the day to 14.
Well, it'll have, the motion will have to be amended.
Well, the motion would have to be amended to change that at the end down.
Right. So is that, somebody want to make the motion to amend that to $1,400?
Make the motion that not Kurt, but Craig get a hold of them and find out what the hell is going on before we pay it.
What's the question, actually?
Well, they didn't put in a full day and $200 for 2-3 guys ain't much.
And that's what Kurt was going to do over the last couple of weeks. I didn't get a sense from Kurt that he was disappointed in the work, but I also didn't get a sense that he actually went out and reviewed it. In the sense that
you get ready to just blow your place or they got into the ditch and they just fell that tree and let it go out into the...
There's not just that, but they never fixed the ditch.
I understand. You asked Kurt.
Fixing the ditch. And there's still piles of brush sitting there. We paid for the bucket truck.
And chipper.
People, chipper,
Yep.
flaggers. We got a bucket truck, no chipper most of the time, and no flaggers.
No, and that from what I've seen, and I haven't run the roads to see what they actually did. I don't know if I know what I was looking for anyway. But what I've seen is that everything just kind of got pushed off to the
Well, you
side.
know what to look
It's one
for.
thing.
You know to not see a mess.
Well, no, yeah.
See
You,
the tree gone,
if you're going to
not
leave,
see it.
if you're going to leave firewood, you bucket to some manageable length for a homeowner, and you stack it roughly out of the right of way, relatively neatly to just shove the logs off the road. And I do see brush just shoved off the road as well. So, and especially at Herrick's place or Frisian's old place or McIntosh's, just below there where those elms just got cut and dumped on the property. Anyway, I don't know whether Kurt is content and satisfied with the job that they did for that reduced amount of money or not. I think that he had a good conversation with John, and I think it's an amicable, arrangement that they have right now. But I don't know if the town got its money's worth on that particular part of the contract,
So
or whether 14 is good.
So at this point in time, the motion on the table is for 16.
Motion on tables for 16.
So technically, if you want to amend the motion, or if you want to do what you just mentioned, or the motion would need to fail, and then we can come back in with some type of a secondary motion, if we're not going to amend it to the 14 or to another dollar amount. Okay? All right, so is there any further discussion on the $1,600? So all those in favor of paying highway warrant number 6 in the amount of $1,600, $1,600, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right.
Abstentions? Okay, so the motion fails. Now, did you want to do a directive of some kind? It's the second time it's failed, so we need to do
Yeah.
something with it.
I got, for $200 for, they weren't even here on time, I tell you, that bothers the hell out of me. And I think they ought to question that, they wasn't here, and they left the goddamn mess. And
I don't think that there's anybody here that's gonna dispute that this whole thing was a mess up from the start. We talked about it last meeting. Craig contacted them, set it up. Nobody watched them. They weren't given specific details, and they made a mess. We all agree with that. So it was mishandled from the start. So if we can just get past this and not let it happen again. Yeah. I mean, is he gonna send a crew back to clean up? I'm sure the answer is no.
I mean, you could probably push it hard enough, but I think that's a little. Personally, I think that's a little far-reaching. I mean, you might be able to negotiate the price down a little further, but I don't know that that's the bottom line. I think you want to try to preserve a working relationship, but again, it's it's up to somebody to say whether, and Rob's a logger, I'm not, or Kirk, I mean, it's up to somebody to say whether we got anywhere near our money's worth. It was a job worth $1,000, the trees that were taken, even with the mess that was left.
It wasn't.
And if that's,
Even I know that.
and if that's the case, then, it's up to the board where you go from there. Whether you try to get them out for another half a day, pick some more trees, try to make an arrangement where they make up for it in a different, but I know that the trees weren't marked, and there wasn't supervision from our highway department. Kirk wasn't there, he took the day off, and Ed and Bob were out grading somewhere, and they didn't supervise either. So it wasn't orchestrated as well as it could have been from this end either. Even though it was prearranged.
They want more work, but if it's gonna be like that, forget it.
Well, when they came up, and I think Jeff was the one who came up, and they did the Athens, I mean, they really tried hard to do a good job and make an impression. Kathy was here when they came in, it was 3 hours after they started, they'd taken down 4 trees, they swept the road. That having been said, there was an interest in continual work, and there was an indication that we'd have a number of trees potentially to take down. We have a hard time contracting with some tree companies right now. I won't name names, but I can think of 4 or 5 of them that are reluctant to do business in this town. And the hope was that we could line up somebody that would be reliable, more or less on call. So, I mean, I'm happy to give them a call, but I just don't know where to go with it.
So what's your pleasure? We just leave it at the motion failed? Do we instruct Craig to do something? Do we instruct Kurt to do something? What would you like to do? Bring it up again in 2 weeks? 2 weeks, I guess.
Well, failure of the motion is reason enough to call and start a conversation, but I don't know what's gonna come with that.
But you don't know what.
Yeah, but if they're gonna leave, what they've left now, and if they do that same kind of work, I don't believe we ought to hire them.
I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't
I
disagree.
mean, but they've gotta know that, somebody's gotta tell them.
I understand, and that wasn't the arrangement before. I mean, when they came up to do the work up at Mitch's, I told them that Mitch didn't want the firewood, not that there was any firewood left in those trees anyway, but they basically cleaned up everything, took everything away, and that was fine. And given that I simply pointed at what needed to come out, and it was fairly obvious, I thought they did a pretty good job. That having been said, this crew, when they came up, found paint markings in the road and kind of made it up as they went along. I don't know that they are accustomed to leaving brush and trees behind. I mean, I wouldn't, it just doesn't seem professional. I know we need some high-scale people. We need some people with buckets that can do, the high branches and take down the trees that might get complicated in lines and stuff. As Rob mentioned at the last time, you could make that arrangement where they simply fell the stuff. We have a front end loader, we've got a backhoe, we've got dump trucks, we could pick this stuff up if we were right beside them, right behind them. I mean, you don't want to pay these guys $100, $200 an hour to do the chipping when we have a chipper and we have a crew that makes $20 an hour. I mean, that arrangement could be made, but it wasn't made on this particular instance, and unless somebody gets down in detail on the next time around, I don't know, I just know there are a lot more trees to come down. There's another issue with trees as well. They provide continuing issues, as payroll shows. But anyway.
So what's your pleasure? What do you want to do?
I spoke my piece.
Do you want me to call him, Irv? I'll be happy to call and talk to John.
Yeah, but
See what I can- see what
that's
I
what
can
I'm
do.
doing. Hey, if they want more work and leave a mess like that, forget it.
So you would advocate that they come up and clean up the mess? I mean, that's gotta be cleaned up in another month. We're gonna be mowing the ditches.
So, yeah.
And either the homeowners are gonna get down in the poison ivy and take the lumber or take the firewood away, or we're gonna clean it out. Well, we gotta mow ditches, and there are a lot more trees to come out before you engage somebody for mowing. To the tune of 11 grand. There's a lot of ditch work to do before we mow.
Well, if we can come up with a list of trees that we need to farm out, just
Here we go,
hear me
back to the
out.
list again.
Hear me out.
Yep.
We have the list, we decide what we're gonna farm out, you call him back, we give him, we scope out a job for him to do, and he's gonna clean up his mess before he starts the new job.
Okay.
And that's what I would say.
Okay, I've got the picture, I'll make a call, I'll give you a call, I'll give her a call, and I'll Kathy, Rob, and I'll let you know what I find out. But we could come up with more work down the road potentially.
Well, I think we're going to.
I think the one thing that we all have to understand from the beginning of that, though, is that right now, there is not a list that anybody can work from.
And the tree warden won't do this, this is a highway foreman's job, it's in the right of way. So I mean,
So we're gonna have to.
the tree warden keeps saying this is Kurt's responsibility.
All right, so when's he coming back from Florida?
He's gotta be back here by Friday, because we have a paving contractors meeting Friday at 10 o'clock.
Well, then he needs
He
to,
should be back Thursday night.
he needs to be given a directive on Friday on when he's gonna give us the tree list.
Okay?
And we can give him that date, which would be a week from Friday, or pick a date. I don't care if it's Saturday.
Oh, well, actually, it was a month ago, but and we got into this before, but we'll talk to Kurt about getting a tree list. Because supposedly,
It's not talking about getting a tree
Well,
list.
like,
It's
you
you
give
will
him a
give
directive.
us a tree list by this date,
okay.
and that's it.
Hopefully you'll get more results than I got. All right, moving on.
Let's pick a date.
I don't have a
We'll
calendar.
talk dates later, because you're gonna have a workshop probably sometime.
There's nothing to vote on. If
Make a
not-
motion to pay check warrant number 7 out of the equipment fund in the amount of $1,638.28.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of paying equipment warrant number 7 in the amount of $1,638.28, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. All right, so then moving on to the reports, the highway department, let's just go down, even though Kurt isn't here this evening, let's go down a couple of things that we have been carrying for the last few meetings. The first one would be the evaluations of his employees at the highway department. I believe Steve asked specifically for those to be turned in. I have not received anything. I don't believe anything's been put in the file.
I think it's in the same file as the list of trees.
Though that could be. But I just would like you to make note of that because we're going to have a discussion about it a little bit later. The Angel Swale, could you give us an update on that? Because I haven't been out there.
I was on the job site last Thursday, where he was just hand raking. The swale was completed, the retaining wall was completed, the culvert extension was in with the silt that came out of the swale went over the pipe for the lawnmower crossing. It looked like he did a very good job. I did not see Chris, but he said that he had been in contact with Chris and she was happy with the job. So I consider that job to be closed and done with.
Okay, can we actually get something though in writing, having been doing this for almost 2 years now? Can we get something from Chris in writing saying
Sure.
that she's,
Happy with it.
that it's done what she requested and
I'll have-
it is a closed issue?
I'll talk to Chris about it. We'll
Thank
try to
you.
get something for good news that
All right, then the other thing that we've been carrying on forever and ever and ever is the network inventory and the fact that Wyndham Regional has not been able to fit us in yet on that network inventory. We just got notification from the state today that we're closing out the grants. One of the grants that we are supposed to be closing out is the Plum Road grant, which we haven't even begun. And again, this is one of the times when I keep harping on the fact that we apply for these little grants, we don't use them, but there is 5 hours worth of paperwork on the back side of an $8,000 grant,
under penalty of,
under penalty of going to jail, to do this necessary paperwork, to not take the money in the first place. And I really would like to have some pressure, some thought put into what we're applying for, and are we actually going to use it before we commit everyone else's time in town to justifying this when there's nothing to justify. So yes, I'd like to know, is that something we can follow up with, directly with Wyndham Regional on to find out if, in fact, Townsend is even in the queue for this year? Because
I can talk to Jeff, I haven't, since we had that meeting upstairs, I haven't actually talked, and I haven't talked to him directly about this particular aspect of what they're doing, but I know they helped us get that grant. And this was supposed to be done this spring, we're 2 years out of date on the
Well,
inventory.
the pole got moved.
No, we're talking about the network inventory.
Oh, the
We're
network, yeah.
We're 2 years out of date on it. We're paying 20% for matching funds now, instead of 10.
I know.
And Wyndham Regional promised a great deal of help. I mean, they promised to help us do this over a year ago. And they said they could help us in getting a grant that would offset the cost of them helping us do it. Again, this was gonna happen last fall, it didn't.
I know what.
And it's been going on for a long, long time, believe me, but it finally ended up that we got the grant, Wyndham Regional's gonna do it. Matt Mann left, Jeff Nugent took over, they're busy, they've got a couple other towns they're working with. There's other kinds of hydrological studies that are in the queue that aren't part of this. They're busy, in any event.
I'd like to know if we're in the queue for this year.
Well, yeah, okay. Call Jeff.
It's costing us money.
Well, but are we gonna have some, are we going to have a product? Kurt says we will, but will we have a product at the end of this project? That
Yeah, that's it,
is
yeah.
actually going
Not a year or 2 years from now.
to satisfy the state with what they want to see on these particular grants. If not, then again, there's a whole nother reason not to get involved in these grants because it's costing us additional money.
No,
But
we still need to get the work done.
These small grants, it cost you money anyway.
I agree. Okay, so moving on to town clerk, I believe there was a,
You can hit Springfield Paving, you do have a copy of the ad, it'll be in the paper tomorrow, there is a meeting on Friday morning. It'll be in the comments tomorrow. There is a meeting Friday morning, 10 o'clock at the highway garage for contractors to meet and review the paving job. I've talked to 4 of them, and invited them to come meet with Kurt and the highway crew, take a tour. They need to do their measuring, they'll need to put in the bids by the 25th, which is your next regularly scheduled meeting. About close of business, 4 o'clock on the 25th, your bid opening at 6 o'clock, at which time you may or may not award a bid. But anyway, qualified companies, insurance certificates, the whole 9 yards, and price per ton in place on asphalt is the quotable amount.
what did I just do?
Did you just say Kurt and the highway crew?
Well, there's gonna be, I don't know if Kurt set this up with me last week, 10 o'clock on Friday. He's in Florida right now, I'm hoping he's back Thursday night, he's supposed to be back. The other, Ed and Bob know about this meeting, so, and basically they need to start at the town line, come back to Acton Hill Road, say this is the
That's
distance.
just what happened to the Athens Road.
I understand, or I'm
And
not,
that wasn't Kurt that done the measuring and it goddamn 2,000-3,000 feet off.
the timetables have gotten a little screwed up because Kurt isn't here because of the holiday delays and all of that. So you're not gonna see this until the 25th. But anyway, there are 4 different local companies that'll be coming, hopefully, at 10 o'clock. And if they don't come, if they don't make that mandatory pre-bid, whatever it is, bidders conference, then basically they don't qualify. They've gotta do the measurement, they've gotta come up with the numbers. And put it in the sealed envelope for the select board to open. But anyway, hopefully that ad is in the paper tomorrow.
So I did.
But I don't know who else is gonna, and it's posted around town, but I don't know who else might see it.
There was a copy.
Yeah, I got a copy, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, then moving on to town clerk, you should have seen the counter money, there should have been a report on the counter money. And the treasurer's report.
We have in a sweep account, $699,076.16, and $30,000 in the checking account. So you have a total of $725,076.16.
That's not too bad.
All right, then also in the treasurer's piece is the contract for the auditor engagement with Solar McCoy. We signed last year a 3-year agreement with them. They sent forth the letter of engagement. This year, the price will be the same. It'll be $12,500 to do the audit. And I'll need a motion to assign the letter of engagement to bring them down here and actually do the outside independent audit.
I should move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor of signing the letter of engagement with Solar McCoy, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Okay, so that's for the audit beginning at the end of FY16 through this year, basically with that as a starting point. They'll be doing it in October, sometime after the 14th, before Halloween. So the last 2 weeks of October.
All right, so that's done.
So, now contact Matt. Thank you very much.
And then moving on to the correspondence piece, what I added with the bridge. I believe Craig, we asked him to get some additional information about what was going to happen at the bridge dedication on the state forest.
And I did talk to Charlie. He indicated that there will be a ceremony with speeches at the end of Scott Bridge. I guess they're setting up some sort of bandstand and people will be standing on a platform, PA system and microphones and all of that, to give short speeches, to dedicate, reflect upon the history of Scott Bridge, anyway, the renovation repairs. The closure of the road won't take very long, but it's going to be like, as he indicated, it will be like the Wardsboro Fair, where there are just going to be people standing in a crowd, basically on the roadway and beyond, and that he wants to put up detour signs. If there are emergency vehicles that come through, people will move aside. But it's going to be like the fair, like the parade in Wardsboro, where the streets get clogged up because there are people in the streets. And as long as there's due notice put out and signage put up, they're comfortable with that. That's all he explained to me, and that's kind of where they are. They've already got posters up for it. The fire department obviously will be there, and there will be, emergency management personnel to that extent to keep an eye on things. How much of a disruption it may be, I don't know. How long it's going to take, I don't know. My gauge is maybe 35 minutes, something like that. But there will be signage at some place, probably at the intersections, both ends.
What brings you to think it's 35 minutes?
Just
an educated guess?
An educated guess. There's one real speaker. There's a couple of announcements to be made, and then they're going to adjourn to potluck and dancing on the bridge and starting bonfires and everything else. I don't know, whatever they do, fireworks.
I thought the state wouldn't let them have a dance on the bridge.
Well, I don't know. I'm not really involved in
No,
it.
I
I'm not
don't.
part of the. I'm not part of it.
I
I
heard
wouldn't-
that at one time, that they wouldn't let them have a dance inside the bridge.
Well, I don't know. If you can put 50 concert dancers in there, you could probably drive a vehicle over it too. I don't know.
I don't either.
So anyway, is there any official?
Sure, we'll read about it in the Reformer the next
If
day.
it collapses, we will.
Rescue will be out there. No
Cool,
doubt.
make some money, we need some money.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there any formal request to the board on that? I
No,
don't-
Charlie just explained that it'll be like having a parade where you shut down the road for a little while because there are people milling, and you put up signs in advance so that somebody doesn't come speeding through at 60 miles an hour on it all out here. That if somebody does, go around the sign or pass the detour or whatever else, that they're probably just gonna have to wait a few minutes in order to secure passage. But that if there is any emergency, obviously, they'll accommodate whatever ambulance or fire truck or police needs to get through, but it will be supervised by adults, so to speak.
So does that answer the questions that we had with the communication, the last meeting? Evidently.
I think so.
Okay. Then moving on to the old business, purchasing policy. Again, this keeps surfacing. I don't know if you noticed, in the highway warrants this time, there is a slip of paper for every one of the Franklin Auto pieces. It matches the Franklin Auto pieces. That seems to be the interpretation of what a purchase policy is, that we just write down no prices, just part numbers, and then they match what's on the invoice, and gives them permission to purchase. So I don't know how far you want to go with this policy. That's the question.
There is a little more to it than that. The idea behind that purchase order book, in part, at least in part, is that there is an assignment when he turns those purchase order receipts in. There is an assignment to an account number. So
That's
that if
true.
it is for the backhoe, he's putting it on. We don't have to, and it used to be incredibly difficult for me, for Kim, for Chris, for Terry, whoever, Elaine, to chase down what all these little parts and pieces actually fit onto, what he wanted them charged out to. So at least now with that paperwork, there is an account number assigned a lot of it is going to all vehicles or all equipment or whatever generic, whatever slush fund we can put it into. But some of it is very specific for the grader or for a particular truck. And that does help a lot when it comes to assigning parts and pieces to equipment. That said, it's not, we don't have, quotable prices, it's just a register that something was ordered for a particular, at a particular time from a particular vendor.
So we've talked about this repeatedly a couple of times. I'm not sure where you want to go. When we have a policy in place, it's got some teeth, but it has to be enforced.
And I think we should go with it.
Well, the only drawback I see to that is the fact that it's going to demand more of Craig's time to effectively do that, to get the quotes, to do that. And if they play the same game that they've played in the past, they're gonna skirt the dollar amount by doing multiple purchases.
But the thing is, if you don't know, I don't give a damn if it's a backhoe or a truck or what it is. If you're spending $7,000 or $8,000 on parts and stuff, and the truck don't make that much, then it's time something should happen.
Right, but your purchasing agent, whoever that might be, the bursar, is not necessarily positioned to do that. You hire a foreman to make those judgments as to whether putting a used recap tire on there is more economical than buying,
But I can't believe the foreman, we always used to have whatever piece of equipment written right on the goddamn statement when it came in.
Yeah.
I can't believe the select board let them get away with it.
Well,
They have.
it's very difficult back here to write up warrants and assign all of this to various vehicles or various departments without some indication from the highway crew as to where all this is going to go. And a lot of it is generic, and I understand you buy an impact wrench, it's all tools and it's all equipment. At the same time, anyway, the budgets are set up in such a way that it really is it all comes out of one pocket anyway. It doesn't really matter how you divide it up. It's only to some degree guesswork.
If you had a car out here that cost you $1,000 to repair and you just used it to come down the street here, would you keep putting more money into it?
I did all my life, Herb. I bought them for $500. I put $3,000 into them, and I sold them for $2,000 when I was done.
Now, that's
Yep.
not very good business.
And that's why I'm working now at the age of 65. I understand it's not good business,
But that seems to me.
but when you're in private industry or when the car is in your garage, you have an incentive to do that. When the taxpayer's foot in the bill and it's an unlimited supply of tax money, I'm not so sure that is always the case. I mean, the economy isn't always the case, but I think things have gotten better. I think there's a lot more conscientiousness involved in not spending money, or at least trying to get a better bang for the buck than there used to be. I think things have improved considerably. That having been said, I know they can be tightened up even more. And we can shop in volume. We can buy oil filters not one at a time.
Well, did you say you had a history in purchasing?
I do.
Okay. We can qualify vendors for tires. Franklin Auto's prices, I looked at the Napa sheets, it looks like we're getting tier 3 pricing, which is good. That's good pricing.
But it wasn't 2 years ago, we were tier 1, we were paying full retail and then some.
Okay, so that's a big mistake.
Yeah, but they get changed, yeah.
Okay, so when it comes down to all your oil filters, shop supplies, you shouldn't have to call 3 different auto parts stores.
No.
Because Napa's already qualified.
Right.
And you're going to them.
Right.
Now you do tires.
Yep.
Go get your 3 prices, maybe you've done this already. Qualify a tire supplier that he needs tires, you're going to John down the street. So you don't have to spend all this time every time a request comes across your desk if you can qualify as many vendors as possible.
I believe that you will find at Goodyear there's a state discount with that.
Well, I mean, I fully agree with Steve. That is the normal practice. And every year, every 16 months, or 18 months, every 2 years, whatever, you do a double check and you requalify. I mean, you spot check every now and then to make sure. There are some things that you can buy. There are a lot of things you know about in advance. You know 3 months from now what oil changes you're going to need. And if you can buy filters, basic quality, if you can buy, I mean, things get pricey after a while. you can shop if you have a little advance notice. I don't have too many problems with the vendors that we have as a rule. I think things have gotten a lot better. I do think that most of them are pre-qualified. The money that we spend tends to go out on impulse. It's little stuff, it's hand cleaner, it's, you know, shop towels, it's things like that. And it's nickel and dime stuff, but it adds up very, very fast. And some of the things like tools, as you pointed out, you need an impact wrench. If you just broke it yesterday, then that's one thing, you absolutely have to have it today. But chances are, you know, a couple of weeks in advance, you're gonna want a bench vise, you're gonna want an impact wrench, you're gonna need something new, socket set, something like that. And those things can be shopped out pretty well. And you can save all kinds of money.
So,
Anyway,
Joe? What's your pleasure? What are we doing with this?
I would like to enforce the purchasing policy that we agreed to.
Okay, so then all paid warrants that come through will need to have the appropriate paperwork with them, is that?
so what the policy allows for emergency purchases. I mean, something happens, I can't react on a moment's notice. And various department heads need the latitude to be able to buy and justify what they buy based on emergency. That having been said, the purchase orders that are coming through now over a certain amount of money basically become purchase requisitions, that it becomes a request for this to be purchased. And some lead time needs to be built into that in order to accommodate
And that's,
the time it takes to shop it, get it shipped. And as I say, you prioritize things on how soon do you need it, is the cost the bottom line, or is the quality the bottom line? And you make it up on those three. And you pay a little more for quality, you pay a little more for expedient shipping. If cost is the bottom line, then by God, you can wait a week to have a slow boat freighted in for free from Oregon. But if quality is the issue, then you may be ordering directly from the manufacturer.
well, and one of the issues that I would like to see when it comes down to this as well is the fact that with the salt and sand, we always set a limit. Every year, we agree to buy X amount. And with a purchase order system in place, we can qualify the vendor, which is fine. But then we have also got a running total. Every time when those shop slips come through,
Yep.
we'll know exactly where we are in the usage of those materials.
Yep.
And that'll help us to be able to gauge how.
But part of the problem is you set a budget for materials, and that is everything. It's dirt,
That's
it's
right.
magnesium chloride, it's sand, it's salt, it's all in one big hopper at 120 grand. And yeah, you're gonna spend 40, 50,000 on salt, 40, 50,000 on sand, or 30, 40 on sand. You know, it adds up pretty quick.
No, but we always
25
set,
on liquid magnesium.
we always set a dollar, or not dollar amount, but
Well,
a tonnage amount on.
In the
salt
last
and
40
sand.
years that you've done that, you've exceeded the amounts.
I'm
Because
well
you
aware of
get
that.
you get to the end of February and you're out of sand or you're out of salt. What are you gonna do? Let everybody slide off the road?
Sure, why
Yeah,
not?
so,
What the heck?
but anyway, yeah, it
I'll
is.
fill up the ditches with it.
Well, like
It
sand,
does- it-
sand, where they run out, they pave the goddamn road.
But it does help to keep a running total, not just from the bills you pay, but from the requests that come in, because at least then you get a little heads up. And it isn't just just keep refilling the shed if it's empty, sort of thing.
Well, how many times have I heard there are 4 trucks lined up out at the town garage to empty the loads, be it salt, be it sand, whatever. I mean, it's continuous, and there's no control over how often they're coming in or how much material is being purchased.
Well, it's,
Where there's no control is the chute on the hopper that's dropping the material on the ground.
yes, and
That's-
that
that's where it all
supposedly
starts from.
it's supposedly been calibrated, but by God, we make a lot of more trips than I think maybe is
That
necessary.
calibration don't mean nothing.
Okay. Anyway, you're gonna be
Because the
sending,
state guys, I talk to them, and if they get a storm, they think it ain't quite enough, they'll change the calibration on it, and then Montpelier will call them, oh God, it must've been out of whack or something.
you've got a little bit of a deficit at the end, you got a little bit of a deficit at the end of 2016, you have to pick up and add to your tax rate this year. You also have some heavy load of spending that was approved at town meeting, including 120,000 for a brand new loader. You also have, if you look at, and this is another on the agenda, but you also have an increase in some of the costs for education. So this is a good year to try to keep some of the purchasing under control and at least to be aware of what it is that you buy as you buy it, before you buy it. Because one of the problems that you've got, and
Is that
I hear
the
Rob
fact?
every time, I sympathize with him constantly. He's talking about payroll, he's talking about running the roads. But until somebody makes a policy that says, we're limited to running the roads once or twice, or only on call, or when somebody calls in, this is just gonna continue. It's gonna continue that you spend 5-6 hours a week, maybe more, checking the roads, so to speak, which is using up fuel. And not necessarily tending to the maintenance of it, but making a little note that they're gonna come back later with the grader or the backhoe, or go pick up the rock or the stick, on call later on. That said, it is a good time to try to tighten up some of the policies, and we'll have this conversation again, I'm sure. It should apply to every department in the town. We are spending some money in town, in municipal town hall here right now. Not only with the transfer station, but with the front offices and new equipment and whatnot. And need to keep an eye on that as well, so. But, anyway.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Next thing, since he's already brought it up, we need to set a date for the tax rate workshop. We have to have the bills out before July 25th, which means we have to leave the front office enough time to get them printed, stuffed, and mailed. So it looks like we're going to have a workshop sometime next week to set the tax rate. Does anybody have any preferences? Time, date?
There's a meeting here Tuesday night.
I've got a meeting in Brattleboro on Tuesday, I can't be there.
Okay, there's a composting workshop at 6 o'clock on Tuesday night, hosted by Women in Solid Waste. There's an AA meeting here. You can have a workshop in the planning commission or in the solicitor's office, but there is AA here on Wednesday night at 6-ish, 6:30-ish, 7. Yeah, August 25th, taxes are due. So, yeah, they absolutely have to be in hand, actually, on July 25th, I believe. Probably mailed out. Friday would be the 21st. They probably ought to go out at least by Friday the 21st, so that's the end of.
Taxes are due the 25th, are they?
Taxes are due August 25th.
You've gotta give them 30 days.
You've got 31 days in the month of July.
Okay, so you bought an extra day, but they're due, 25th.
Right, so they have to be out and in hand on the 25th.
Okay, so they were out on the 26th then? Or whenever.
But
Yeah.
But we need to set that tax rate within the next week to be able to get everything done and get them out.
All right, to get them printed up and everything.
Well, with a brand new copier, considering how much trouble we had this morning making a copy of a birth certificate, it's going to be a real interesting day.
Are we doing multi-three color, or are we doing?
I think we're gonna do 3 color, we're gonna do 3,000 of them. There's only 1,500 taxable properties, but we're gonna do 3,000, we decided.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
we counted out 200 today for somebody.
So, does anybody have any preferences as to when you'd like to do this? When are we going to, the closeout is tomorrow, is that correct? We'll have hopefully final numbers.
Lori Boyd will be in from Nemrick tomorrow to work with Elaine on closing out the period and closing out the year. But that's for 2017. We're starting, I'm sorry. Go.
Are we going to have the year closed out tomorrow?
So we know what the deficit or the surplus.
Well, but that wouldn't be, what his point is that's not the what we'll be setting tax rates on.
No.
But until we close this year out, I don't feel comfortable with the beginning or the ending number for 16.
I don't disagree. I've looked at 16 pretty hard. I don't see too many issues. There's some minor little insignificant ones. I've got a couple questions to ask, but basically you're in pretty good shape. I mean, in terms of the numbers. 2017, I haven't looked at that hard. It's going to depend on 17, but 16 has been manipulated enough. I don't think we want to reopen that any way, shape, or form. We've been to P-Check, we've had Nemrick address this, Terry's addressed it, I've addressed it a number of times. We're pretty solid on it. There are some questions about tax sale properties and whatnot that need to be addressed, but right now you're looking at about a $90,000 deficit, all funds. You have some reserve money to shift, which we're going to be taking a look at that a little bit, but not a whole lot. You need to know how that comes into play. That's, and not this year's reserve money, but last year's reserve money that needs to be properly entered. But basically you're looking at about a $90,000 deficit, and you have to raise $1,150,000 minus 1,145,000, something like that, in taxes. We already know what the school rates are gonna be.
Okay.
Okay?
So are we going to be ready to do that?
You will be ready by next week, one way or the other, hell or high water. You gotta set it to, Joe's gotta be doing some printing and they gotta put things in the mail. So we're not gonna miss the deadline of August 25th again by missing the July deadline again. However, the grand list doesn't have to be finalized and launched until July 25th,
I know.
according to the PVR calendar. So I mean,
Unfortunately, we don't have that option. Once the taxpayers set the date, we're stuck.
today should have been final for the rebate, homestead, all that stuff. They weren't off by much, but today was their artificial deadline for being finalized with taking care of the homestead stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother story.
That, I don't even wanna go there, I'm just
You
saying.
don't wanna go there.
No, I don't.
We'll talk about that later.
But grievances are over. Don't believe there were very many, if any at all. So we should be relatively clear with the grand list.
So Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday next week?
Wednesday or Thursday is good for me.
Whatever.
Are you catering it?
No?
We can, there's all oodles of money left over.
I don't care. Heck,
You have a
just
choice
never
of
asked
two
my,
days.
never asked my choice anyways, so.
I just did.
If it's Wednesday, you're in the little room, it's hotter.
Oh, that's
Whatever,
right,
yeah.
that's right.
That's right,
Wednesday's
just
hot
busy,
that room.
busy on Wednesdays.
But we can have beverages in that room.
You can have beverages anywhere you want. I mean, it's open to the public, it's a workshop, you've got a warrant, there will be a quorum, but you know what? People don't generally show up for workshops.
Who cares what the tax rate's gonna be? They find that out soon enough. So we're gonna say, it's hard to be in this building when A's in the building. It really is. So why don't we look at Thursday?
Thursday.
Does that work? for
Okay.
everybody?
And there is a,
Around the party or something?
No, it's just, there's people coming and going and there's just noise, distractions.
gives me another day to work those numbers out here too.
So we're gonna do Thursday, I don't even know what date Thursday is.
Well, it's gonna be the 20th, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it should be the 20th. I got a calendar. I think it's the 20th.
And same time, 6?
6.
Does
6,
that work?
Yeah, it's the 20th, Thursday, 20th, 6 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. The governance study committee workshop, we never did hear back from Will, and I'm kind of disappointed.
He
that
was
he's
gonna
not
be
here.
on, he was gonna be on the 11th, because I remember you asking him, I didn't know, but I do
Okay.
remember. He was gonna be on tonight.
So we might want to just get in touch, drop him an email, and find out if he made any headway with the committee, as far as trying to determine when, where, why, or how, to have a discussion. New business, Two Wired Guys, we have a contract with a local computer firm that comes in and takes care of the 5 computers that are in this building. The cost is $177 per machine per year. And the town clerk has requested that we sign the contract to, I don't even know what that adds up to.
$885.
Okay.
so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the Two Wired Guys unlimited membership renewal application, signify by saying
That's
aye.
the gold.
Aye.
We're in the gold
Opposed?
club or something, it's in the platinum gold club or something.
Okay, so we've had this discussion with the town clerk, the fact that there is a chance there will be a new computer in the building, and whether or not that would be covered under this agreement. And supposedly it's all taken care of, and it will be covered under the same agreement. All right, moving on to other business. Is there any other business? Next meeting is July 25th at 6, other than the workshop on the 20th at 6. Any other open session business? All right.
Other than, just to acknowledge that the homestead, the educational numbers have arrived, and your pilot numbers have arrived for the physical property out at the state park, and the hold harmless FY 2018 estimate has arrived. The problem with the pilot is it isn't fully funded, they're only giving 75% of the state valuation. You'll notice on the education tax rates, and we'll talk about this more at the tax workshop, but the education tax rates are non-resident at 139 roughly, homestead at 163. Those are down and up respectively by real pennies. I think Rick sent out an email to that effect as well. But anyway, yeah, the state is catching up with some of its obligation.
All right, then
Number two.
I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session under 1 VSA, section 313A3 for the evaluation of an employee.
So,
Second,
Second.
is there any discussion?
We'll do this at 7:10.
All those in favor of going into executive session, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Any
Motion passes.
resolution coming up?
There will not be a resolution.